So I lied, there wasn't actually a special announcement. I was just saying words into a microphone. It's caves. I'm not gonna do a cave. I'm doing this thing because I feel like it would be I would not be doing my duty if I did not go into this big cool structure, one of the only big cool structures in the original game. I also tried to do a little bit of research. Oh, we're starting way far back, and I gotta go fight this guy about it. Last episode, we were kind of milling about here. Can I do anything with that? No. We have found a bunch of genuine Zonai architecture, mix of Zonai architecture. Where it was like the Breath of the Wild Zonai assets with a little bit of new Zonai asset, or at least a new Zonai chest. And so I definitely went down a tangent off camera trying to remember how irreconcilable. Oh, that's because my homies are here. How irreconcilable the Zonai stuff is in these two games. Where the previous game is Kato out here, or is it just horse? It's just horse. Have I taken a picture of horse? Horse. I have taken a picture of that horse. Probably this horse exactly, actually. Oh my goodness. We're having some difficulty with controls today. No, we're replaced. That's a way better picture. So as of Breath of the Wild, everything important that happened in Hyrule happened either 10,000 years ago or sometime in the distant past prior to 10,000 years ago. And so Zonai stuff was just that. It was just, there's ruins in some places that we call Zonai. Who were they? Who knows? The only thing we really had to go on was that you would get the barbarian armor if you were doing Zonai stuff. And that they had the motif that was sorta kinda... Oh, he's here. Sorta kinda Triforce-y if you extrapolate, which, what do you call it? Making of a Champion was happy to do. I was just looking at Making of the Champion. No, I want that lizard! Ooh, new mushroom. I just went and read through... Ow! Sorry. Read through creating a champion just now to try and remember some of that stuff. Ooh, what is that? That's Yunobo. What are you doing, buddy? Hey, Kato. Now, that's kind of it. Literally, Zonai just is like inverse of Nazo, which is mysterious. Like, wasn't really necessarily meant to even be anything beyond we want to invent a mysterious bunch of guys to make some ruins. And then there's also a bunch of other ruins around in a couple places. Do I have... I guess we've been to Spring of Power. There's some ruins nearby here-ish? Some ruins there. Some ruins I haven't gotten to yet that are very... that are not meant to be Zonai ruins, but are meant to be these kind of more ancient ruins than a lot of the ruins that we see, like, in Hyrule Field, which are ruins of, like, places that existed 100 years ago. This is meant to be, you know, a pretty direct Skyward Sword thing. Which we are taken to believe is something that happened in Myth, the Age of Myth. Which is the anything prior to 10,000 years ago. Hyrule was founded back in that, at some point, most notably. all that happened 10,000 years ago is that the Sheikah figured out how to do technology, and everybody got rid of Calamity Ganon once and for all, except for 100 years ago when he came back. And then this place. So we're in the Forgotten Temple. It's not on my map yet. That's okay. I forgive us. Oh, I wanted this read. Forgotten Temple, kind of an extension of that ancient Hyrulean architecture, the ancient Hylian architecture, that stuff that is Skyward Sword adjacent, I would say. We're gonna fight a lot of guys here, aren't we? This might be a long episode. I didn't plan on this being a long episode, but I also didn't really plan very much. I couldn't remember what was here. In Breath of the Wild, this is a really fun place because Guardians are in that game, and they said, what if we just line an entire giant corridor with Guardians? Oh, that bow broke. It's a really fun bit in that game. Oh boy, this is gonna be hard. Thank you, Nebo. Very fun bit. What am I doing? I need to try to focus, and I'm doing a bad job focusing. But as we're gonna see here in a minute, we're about to get to the end of this in like 20 minutes or however long it's gonna take me to walk to the end of this. And at the end is a bunch of Zonai stuff. Why is there a bunch of Zonai stuff here? Well, Zonai in this game, retcon's not the word, but have now newly been established as existing, I guess, prior to the founding of Hyrule, so prior to the Age of Myth, or sometime at the deepest parts of the Age of Myth. They predate Hyrule because they eventually helped found Hyrule, specifically the two that we know of. There's also like two and a half that we know of Zonai people do that. Right. And they lived with their entirely own set of architecture in this, well, on the surface, but eventually in the sky. And now I'm gonna put my memory to the test. I don't think much of that architecture shows up. Well, it definitely doesn't show up on the surface. When it does show up, don't want that. I want that. It was like previously way more buried than you would think. So below the Zonai stuff that we know of to have existed 10,000 years ago. And like the two Zonai styles don't cohere very much. So it's almost like you have like two entirely different civilizations, both named Zonai. A lot of the time. There were two different groups of people who are the Zonai. And reading Zelda Wiki puts forward some stuff that I guess is in a quest I have not done yet in this game. That maybe a lot of the Zonai stuff that we saw in like the eponymous Zonai ruins, or in like where are they at? The labyrinths and all that stuff all came later than the actual real Zonai and were made by like people mimicking the Zonai architecture. Which is one way to like reconcile that, to be like, okay, well, why is all the stuff that's even older than the oldest stuff we knew in way better condition in a completely different style? And it's like, oh, because that was made later by people doing throwback ruins, I guess, is one way to put it. It's also a thing that, like, the and a half guy is the hero from 10,000 years ago, who's implied to be a Zonai guy, who's like only the third Zonai guy we know of. And like, I guess that's all fine, right? I think they're doing another art book that will probably take this as the most sane way to approach the situation presented, right? That Zonai, actually, kind of two groups of people. Don't think too hard about it. But I'm really just left with, why use the Zonai at all? If you're going to give them a completely different architecture and a completely different... It existed at a completely different time with a completely different set of architecture. Why did they have to be Zonai? Except that you're using a recognizable name, which I guess is the reason, right? You made a group of guys literally called Mysterious Guys, and you wanted to explain them. But you didn't want to actually explain those guys. You wanted to invent a new group of guys that could fulfill the role you needed into this new game. And I just don't think that's very good. I don't think anybody will be shocked at this revelation, but I don't think it's a good bit of world building to be like, we're gonna reveal the secrets. Except not about those guys, about some other guys who are the same guys, kind of, but also not really at all. Korok. It's a being in this area and finding new Zonai ruins that were buried. At least these ruins are like the old style ruins. Is it better that they're the old style ruins that were there all along? I don't know. Is there some other way to reconcile Breath of the Wild Zonai with Tears of the Kingdom Zonai that I'm not thinking of immediately? I'm sure there is. But it probably ends up having to be more convoluted. It would have worked if Zonai had just stuck around. I think, thinking about a lot of this, looking at the timeline of events in Breath of the Wild again, you're really struck with the fact that, like, between the backstory of Breath of the Wild and the game, the Breath of the Wild, 10,000 years pass and nothing happens. So little happens in 10,000 years, and it's like, they just picked 10,000 because it was a big number. And then ran into this game and needed a bigger number than that. It's like, so little changes. So little progression happens as, like, society in these games. And it's like, what if they had doubled down on, like, the passage of time actually mattering? What if they had doubled down on, like, there being civilizations that rise and fall, and not just the one civilization that probably rose and fell? What if they'd been more deliberate? What if there had been, like, discussion about how, oh yeah, the Zonai were around for a while after that, and we do, like, a Metroid Prime 3 Brionian thing where it's like, oh, they were an enlightened group that eventually embraced a more naturalistic thing, and that's why you have this. There's the original guys that were highly magical and created a bunch of magical technology, and then you had a bunch of guys that were like, actually, that's bad. We're gonna go off into the jungle and worship more animal spirits instead. Because that technology ended up causing some kind of problem. Maybe they foresaw the calamity. That'd have been a more interesting approach than what we get here in this game. Tears of the Kingdom, again, is just a game that, despite everything, ultimately does not care about Breath of the Wild. Mayausi Shrine.
Yeah.
It's not that enormous, Impa, I promise. I'm gonna grab this. We're not going in here yet, obviously. I don't even want to think about the shrines also, because, like, if you start thinking too hard about the nature of shrines between the two games, you will lose your mind. Breath of the Wild having ones that are ostensibly, like, subterranean test chambers that have been there all along, but then access to them surfaces eventually. I'm stepping on my glasses. But they're all along. But then sometimes that's not the case, and sometimes it's clearly not how that's working. And then you have these ones, which who knows what the nature of these are. Just weird little pocket dimensions that Rauru put. I was also trying to figure out, and I didn't finish Googling. We could Google this real quick. This is a long episode. This is the episode where I get to ramble about lore. When did the monks exist? We're going to Zelda Wiki. I'm looking at it on my phone so you don't get a bunch of ASMR of me doing this. When did those monks exist? Were those monks 10,000 years ago? Were those monks earlier than 2,000 or 10,000 years ago? When I was looking at the Making a Champions book, it implied that they were, like, from the founding of Hyrule era? Like, Skyward Sword era, almost? Overview. Ancient members of the Sheik clan, devout worshippers of the goddess Hylia. List of monks. I've said all those names on camera. No. No reference to when they existed. Okay. So they could have been 10,000 years ago. That's probably in line with them creating the those shrines. Meanwhile, Rauru just kind of created a bunch of shrines at some point that are not elaborated on in the same way. Probably for the best. Probably for the best. That statue fell over. This statue! Can I take a picture of it? I cannot take a picture. I could take a picture of it, but not in any way that I get credit for. See, and then this is the thing. This is like the, talking about antiquity. You know, this is supposed to be, from like a person who went from playing Skyward Sword to this game, this is supposed to be that same statue in Skyward Sword. From Skyward Sword. Pivotal, important statue to that game. And then it's like suddenly here in this weird temple. Again, the people that made Breath of the Wild love Skyward Sword. Have big affection for Skyward Sword. Was this egg... It's not an egg statue. It's like almost an egg statue, but it's not an egg statue. That must have been there before. But now that this moved, this is here. We're gonna go in there in a second. I think I can find, hopefully, a tree up here. Uh-oh, did I miss? No. Oh, I'm so good at video game. You know what? We'll take that. But yeah, so this ruin, this ostensibly like ancient Hylian, whatever ruin that predates 10,000 years ago, but is not in Breath of the Wild tied to the Zonai at all, secretly houses a Zonai ruin. And then this Zonai ruin we know comes from the founding of Hyrule, because I'm pretty sure this exact room, well, this door. This is the type of door we see in the sky. Is that, that's probably decipherable text. I'm pretty sure we see this room or rooms very much like it in some of the stuff that we see in cutscenes. Oh no, it's this right here. We see this right here specifically. see, this grave. In cutscenes. But yeah, like, so this is implying that this was all... Which... I guess this is all reconcilable in my mind, because if the goddess statue dates back to the founding of Hyrule, ancient Hyrulean ruins and ancient Zonai ruins, which I guess I'm going to have to differentiate by calling them ancient Zonai ruins, are one and the same, actually. From the same time. It also just means that, like, clearly the origin of this is not the same origin as Skyward Sword, which, that's fine. For my own sanity, I need to not pretend that anything in the Age of Myth corresponds to anything from the other games. The Breath of the Age of the Kingdom trilogy is its own self-contained thing. It just kind of has to be, or else I will go insane. Lotus. What do these guys represent? Everything represents something. How many of these are there? There are 7. So these are the 7 guys around a lotus of some kind doing something. Okay. Ugh, I can't even think about that. I can't say the word secret stones without just getting mad. This is pretty. This is really pretty. Where does this lead out to? That's just open to the air somewhere. Where am I exactly? That should just be open here. I am gonna make a mental note to check that out. Okay, I don't know that I've ever seen that. It's not gonna keep that landmark also because I'm about to walk over there. 2 ways up, 2 ways down, to a really cool map! Honestly, if it wasn't for this cool map, I might not have done this, but the cool map makes and breaks this as something that I really want to do, because look at this! I love a cool, big map.
Ah. Ooh. Oh.
Those are them geoglyphs. You're gonna show me them all.
Oh.
I'm not gonna worry about this right now. But I do like that I found this for Impa, because I like Impa as a character. She's good.
Oh.
It's so cool. It's so cool. But also, now I'm gonna bicker. One last little bicker. But also, this should be from, what does this say? A tier with a tier. Great, thanks. But also this shows that, like, nothing has changed in millennia upon millennia upon millennia. Unless there was somebody 10,000 years ago running around making sure this was all set up. Which, you know, I can see that, actually. I wouldn't hate that explanation. Would that solve everything for me if we got DLC that was like 10,000 years ago? If we played during... Okay. I'm gonna fix this for myself. You do a $30 standalone threequel to this game that takes place during the 10,000 years ago, where the original champions were around. And you play as the ancient champion, and you use that to explain all of these discrepancies. And like you go around and like the game starts with you sealing Ganon, and then you have to go around and set everything up meticulously so that the rest of the games make sense. I don't think that fixes it. I don't know how to fix this. I don't know how to fix any of this. Alright, I think I can hit this with a little thing. I'm gonna shoot you up to the surface. You know what? You can come with me. This is unorthodox, so we're gonna go up to the surface and take a look and see if that's actually, like, visible light coming down. Where are we? Oh, I can't. I was trying to pop open the... Okay, hold on. It's not. It's not. It should be here somewhere. It should be, like, right here. Underneath this rock. So that light is coming from who knows where. Powered by the same power source that powered the ancient machines from the previous game. Disappointing to me. Anyway, that's it. That's about as much lore as I think you're gonna get for this project. Unless we run into another, like, very lore relevant cave. Maybe. Could happen. Probably back to normal next week. Maybe. Could be. We'll find out. Bye.